So a lot of times as we make changes to a project in Blender or any 3D modeling program for that matter, or anything we do, there's always ramifications, or almost always. Um, so it's important as you do these things, particularly if you get into gross changes, like if you start sculpting something, or in the case that I just did, where I did a little bit of proportional editing and move things around, that you come back in with some consistency and do some cleanup. Because, I use proportional editing to get some curves to happen, but where it dropped off, sometimes some anomalies happen, where oh, gee, I've got these things that sort of jut out ever so slightly. And from a distance, it's not a big deal, but sometimes that can be a deal breaker on a project. So in a case like this, I might just go ahead and grab these guys and select them, G to grab, and Y, and maybe I just tweak them back over a little bit so that they're kind of in line with the general curvature of the bag. And maybe if one or two are jutting out more than the others, I do it again. Grab on Y and move those over just a bit more yet. Um, Another thing, as I had made some large general changes that can occur, is let's look at this guy right here. So I've got this vertex that's jutting out from the side. Well, now if I grab this on Y and I move it back in line with everything, we'll see that it's now in the same spot as another vertex. And we can see that, as I had added some curves to things, and as we look at this from the different sides, I had started with basically what was a cube, and as I changed and tweaked and did some edits, or some, whether proportional or not, or did a touch of sculpting, in some cases, some of these things started to converge. And what's likely going on is that I now have multiple vertices in some locations. And let's take a look. I mean, case in point, if I grab this vertex and move it out, we can see that, oh, surprise, there were actually two in that location. So, one other thing is to just remember that we do have the ability to clean things up. If I go to my mesh, there is a cleanup option, and there's any number of things here. We're not going to go into every single one. That's something that I've gone into in other videos, like when you're prepping for 3D printing and so forth. But one thing that we can do is we can do a merge by distance. And before I do that, just let's take note. There's 6,180, 28 vertices that are in this. I selected all just so that we can see 6,128 out of 6,128. But now if I go to mesh, and if I go to cleanup, and if I merge by distance, we'll see that, hey, I dropped the number of vertices quite a bit. And now if I go back and look for these issues, if I, for example, come here now and grab this vertex, we'll see that that little problem is fixed. So just things to be aware of as you're doing this. It's better to clean up things consistently every time, or nearly every time you've done made a significant change, rather than leaving it and then eventually it catches up on you as a tangled mess that you can't handle at the tail end of your project.